Good evening, everyone. I hope you are all well. It's Thursday night and it's, date night with Denta. And it's, for us to have a conversation about our community, about Africa, what it means to us, everything. And today we have the ambassador herself, who's going to be joining us very shortly. As we talk about Zimbabwe, its role in the bright future of Africa. Again, I want to see where all my viewers are watching me from. If you're watching me for the first time, welcome, welcome, and welcome. I really want to have your views on what you think is happening in Zimbabwe, what you think about the situation with the white farmers. Do you think it's right? What are your thoughts? I really want to hear your thoughts before the ambassador comes on. Let's have a conversation. Before I do, I want to say a big thank you to World Remit, our sponsors. Let me just put their logo up. If you've never seen their logo before, let me just show you who they are. You can join 5.7 million customers. 5.7 million customers. That's a lot of people who are sending money back home to Ghana or, different parts of Africa. And you should join that family too. Yes. World Remit, you can send your money to your family and friends back home real quick, real fast. You can make that transfer to your family and friends in a matter of minutes on your laptop, on your phone. It's really, really simple. All you have to do is download the app. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you have no excuse when your family member calls you and says, hey, Kofi, look, I'm desperate for money. You can send the money and it will go onto their mobile money. So it's really, really simple, very, very quick. And you can send your loved ones some money. Pay for school fees, pay for your building of your house, whatever it is, pay for your mortgage, whatever it is that you are doing back home in Africa, you can use World Remit. And again, let me say thank you to, the people that are supporting me. I want to say a big thank you to, let me see, this amazing young girl, Gloria Mills. So Gloria Mills is making these amazing perfumes. Let me put her details up. There you go. So you can go on her website and order it. It smells absolutely amazing. I've got one here. Let me open it up and show you what it looks like. So this is one of them. So you can go online, www.gloriamills.com and buy one. And then I have another one here as well. Smells really, really good. You're missing out, guys. If you don't want to miss out, then you need to make sure you go on the website and purchase yours. Let's support our own. This is the time. Really young girl. Let me see if I can find her picture of her product here to show you. My website, my thing decided to play up. But yeah, no, this is the product. Absolutely amazing. There it is. Oh, there you go. That's what it looks like. So go online, let's support, buy it. Let me know what you think as well. If any of you have got the product as well, let me know what you think of the product. Oh, wow, you can't hear me. You can't see me. Is my website, is my network not good? I'm seeing very poor video quality. Sarkes, hi. Is my video okay? Please let me know. I know that sometimes it goes off, but I really want to hear from you. Okay, I've got somebody watching from New York. Dapper, please let me know if you can see is my quality better now? Hello, Kwame. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. Let me see who else is here. We can hear and see you here on YouTube. Excellent, fantastic. It's okay, it's amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Guys, I want to hear from you. What do you think about the situation in Zimbabwe before, the ambassador comes on? What do you think about the situations? I really want to hear from you guys, what your views are And if you have any questions for the ambassador, you know, we are going to be talking about what's happening in Zimbabwe, about the white farmers and about the land and about the type of money that, you know, Zimbabwe have to pay out. What do you think Mugabe is doing right now in his grave? Someone sent me a message, said he's probably turning in his grave. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that? Also, any other questions for the ambassador? Do you know about ADDI? Are you familiar? Have you been to their website? Have you joined? For anybody that's in the diaspora that really wants to know everything that's happening on the continent, ADDI is the platform for you, which is run by the ambassador herself, which will be launching very, very soon. The ambassador is also writing a book. And, you know, we're going to be talking about all of that. Yes. So Kaya De says Zimbabwe decided to pay 3.5 billion to former white farmers, and he's put thieves ? What do you think about it? Are they thieves? What do you think? Can see you, but the video quality, it's not that great. Oh, Dapper, I'm really sorry. I don't know what's happening with okay, Susan says, you know, I can hear it clearly. So I don't know what's happening on YouTube and Facebook. I apologize for it. Hopefully it will pick up as the conversation goes on. But Dapper, what are your views on the situation at the moment in Zimbabwe? What are your thoughts? But does Zimbabwe even have 3.5 billion? That is the question. Where are they going to get that money from? You know, as a country, I don't think they even, you know, they can come close to 3.5 billion. So where are they going to get this money from? This is the question. And where did the white farmers get the land from in the first place? Was it land that was owned by Africans? You know, we're going to be discussing all of that. But as you are watching, please, 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 I want to hear from you. I want to hear your questions that you have for the ambassador. Let's get talking. Let us get talking. Bernice, yes, we can hear you in New York. Hello. How is New York? I know that London is very, very hot, very, very humid. I heard that, you know, people want it to rain. For the first time, they just want rain. But it doesn't seem to be raining at the moment in the UK. I'm hearing it's like 36 degrees. It's hot in Ghana, but it's not as hot as the UK at the moment. Okay. Joe B says, why is the people of Zimbabwe paying monies to the whites that they stole from the blacks? Winnie, hi Winnie. UK, are you feeling as hot as well? Yes. Dapper says it is madness to pay these people's money for the land that they stole. Again, guys, let me hear your views on the topic, on the situation on the ground. Somebody says, let me see. Why? Okay. Let me see if I can put some of these on the screen. Okay. And this is Ambassador's website, by the way. Please do go online and try and register. It's really, really important as a community that we come together and register. So let's see. Okay. Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yes, Her Excellency Arikana Chihombori-Quao, President and founder of ADI, has written a book called Africa 101. Absolutely, she has. And it's going to be coming out very shortly as well. So keep an eye on that. I think it's going to be on her website. So again, you know, go on the website and you can grab a copy. Let's see. I respect Auntie so much, Dr. Arikana, but on this subject, sorry, I feel she is wrong. Kwame, what do you feel she is wrong about? Have you heard her speak on another platform? What did she say? What don't you agree on? tell me, let me know. I would love to hear from you as well. Please, please, please let me know. And where are you watching from, Kwame? Because I would love to get some of you to call in as well, or I'll call you. Let me know. It will be good to speak to some of you on the topic. Please drop your number and I'll see if I can dial you in so we can have the conversation with yourselves as well. Was it? Okay. We need African unity now and everything is over. That's the only solution. As a continent, we can pay back all the loans and kick those who don't respect us as Africans out of Africa. And that's all. Okay. So that means you agree with the president saying that he's going to pay back the money, right? Dapper, let me see what the thing most people of color forget to do. Let me see. Put this up. The thing that most people of color forget to do or understand, the UK was built by black slavery and that's why it's developed. Dapper, I do agree with you on that. Okay, Johnny Brown, you miss you're watching from America and you miss the motherland. The motherland misses you too. Okay. She spoke on the Pharma Situation in Zimbabwe and it sounded like she agreed with the decision to pay the farmers. This is wrong and sets, wow. So this is your take on it. Okay, well, we're going to speak to Ambassador and get her views on it and get, what she thinks about it, and dive into the conversation more. So let's see what she says when she comes on. What else have you got to say? Sarka says you're looking good this evening. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. And if you are watching on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube. Hey, sis. Hey, Madam Sarkodie. Hi, sis. How are you? Hope you're well. How's the kids in the US? Thank you so much for joining me on the show tonight. And make sure, guys, that if you are watching on YouTube, you should subscribe. Hit that red button and make it gray, as my daughter always says, make it gray. And also, if you're watching on Facebook, make sure that you spread the word, do a watch party, and invite people to watch this conversation. So let's see, Africans for Africans only. We is good spot to invest. But are Africans investing in Africa? What are you guys doing? What are people investing in? What are people interest at the moment? I know sometimes we see a lot of, other cultures invested in Africa. We get very tensed about it. But what are we doing? What have you done? Have you invested in somebody? Not every one of us is going to move back home to Africa, but are you investing? What are you investing in? Because these people are moving back to Africa and, they are investing, they are employing people, and they are, enhancing the economy. So what are you doing? I really want to hear from you guys. What are you investing in? What are you interested in? I think that would be good to know. Okay, let's see what this other lady has said. Connecticut understand what Dr. Arikana is saying, but I don't think it's right. I believe they should leverage this though and tell them to pay the slave around. Okay, do you agree? Do you agree? Let me know. We should not agree to pay any. They must understand that the West is at war with us as a people. This is all out or about control. Stop making concessions. Zimbabwe has minerals the West wants. So what do you think? What do you think, if Mugabe was around, what do you think he would have done? What do you think would have happened? Would this have ever happened if Mugabe was around? I think that's a good question. I want to make a difference through investment rather than just feeding children. Okay, so what, Johnny, what type of investment are you interested in? Is it farming? What is it? Is it, is it agriculture? We really, really want to hear from you on what you want to invest in. Hi, Denta, I'm Gary in Washington. I totally disagree with Zimbabwe President. Okay, yep, thank you for putting that up. President to pay even a penny to the white farmers. Since when has Europe and America agreed to? Okay, so you don't agree at all. Totally understand your standpoint as well. It will be interesting to see what the ambassador says. Okay, what are your other thoughts, guys? One says, I'm upset. Wow, a lot of people seem to be upset about this. Okay. He continued to the world and let the diaspora assist once they get their money. The land is basically stolen, so why pay them anything? Rewrite the constitution without their influence. Right. I agree. Let's see. I'm curious to see what the ambassador says when she comes on. Let's see what else is here. Somebody says, if Mugabe was around, he would be very, very, very unhappy. Do you also agree with that? Let me see what else is here. Okay. Keep putting your comments up. Let me know your thoughts. Please share your pages whilst we wait for the ambassador to come up. Does anybody, I guess, okay, somebody's put, I guess I need to make a visit and see what the needs are and what part of Africa will benefit my investment, maybe real estate. So what do you currently do at the moment? What do you currently do at the moment, Johnny? What are you into? Okay, let's see. What other people are writing. Deciding to pay these colonizers is an insult to the global African family. We are showing our weakness by continuously willing to bend over her. At the point we do say enough. When do we say enough is enough? When do we say enough is enough? Okay, let's see. Kagame is a great example of how most African presidents should conduct themselves. Ghana is a great example. Okay. Okay, somebody's put, take the Lloyds of London, for example, after admitted to aiding slave trade by aiding the insurance on slave as they were commodities, are refusing to pay reparations, instead offering jobs. Really? Are they? Wow, I thought they were willing to pay. We've done some investigations and they said that they are looking at a criteria of how they will pay back those money. Lloyds of London, that's what they said. They said they're working on a criteria and they will be making donations. So let's see what happens in the next few weeks and months. But I know that Lloyds of London said that is what they are going to be doing. So let's see what Kwame says. No, non-African has ever paid anything to we Africans worldwide. So many examples of this, yet we always want to hold hands and get on. It's so sad. Oh, guys. Right, let me see. Mugabe he will never accept to pay a penny to any white farmers. I believe that. Do we have any Zimbabweans on? Anybody from Zimbabwe that is watching? I would really like to hear from you on the ground as well. I remember going to Zimbabwe and meeting Mugabe a few years ago, and I had heard so many things about him before going, so I was expecting something else in my mind. But when I met him, he was a very funny, jovial, caring person. And even on the ground, when I spoke to the people, they seemed to, really love him. So it's interesting to kind of, see what the media also puts out sometimes. So I'm really curious to see what your thoughts are today. So Ambassador is here. It's great to always have her on. I call her Mummy. You guys call her Ambassador, but I call her Mummy. I have the honor of calling her Mummy. So please let me bring on the Ambassador. Hi, Mummy.
Hi, sorry, my daughter. I was running around town and I got held up a little bit. My apologies.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time as always.
Well, thank you for all the good work.
Mummy, we'll carry on. I don't know whether you've heard. Thank you. I don't know whether you've seen some of the comments that I was just reading. Let me go back to a few of them. Okay, hold on one second. What do you think about what this person is saying? Let me see if I can get it up. Mummy, can you see this?
Yes, I can see that.
Okay. All right, Mummy. I think a lot of people have been patiently waiting. So let's crack on. For me, the topic tonight is, Zimbabwe, its role in the bright future of Africa. Mummy, what we'd like to know from you, kindly brief us on the current situation in Zimbabwe as you see it.
Well, all of you have been listening to the news and watching some of the headlines. Some of the headlines are not exactly accurate. Some are saying Zimbabwe is giving back the land to white farmers, which of course is not true. Some are saying the government is compensating the white farmers for the land. That too is not true. I urge everyone to look at the document that the government of Zimbabwe put out. And in that document, it summarizes the agreement as it stands. And it clearly states that the land reform is irreversible. Plain and simple, the land reform is irreversible. That is the reason many Black Zimbabweans died fighting for the right to take back our land. That can never be reversed. So let's get that very clear. Let me also, for those who are not familiar with the situation in Zimbabwe, for the ceasefire to take place in 1980, the freedom fighters, together with the Smith regime, the tiebreaker was the issue of compensation of the farmers for the land that they illegally acquired. Of course, we all know that, but it was a tiebreaker. So during the Lancaster Agreement, the document is called Lancaster because this meeting, the negotiations took place at Lancaster House in the UK, in London. And so the Lancaster Agreement clearly stated that was the only way this agreement could move forward, was that the farmers would be compensated for the land by Britain, because Zimbabwe's position, and of course our negotiators at that time, was President Mugabe, who was the leader of the ZANU-PF. They said, we do not pay for the land because the land was illegally gotten, and this is why we were in the bush fighting, and therefore we will not compensate the white farmers for the land. Britain understood that, and so they agreed that it was, they were the ones who are responsible for what happened in Zimbabwe, and they took ownership of that. And in the agreement, in the Lancaster Agreement, they were to compensate the farmers. The issue then became of the improvements on the land, which were the homesteads, the irrigation systems, or any improvements that were on those farms. The farmers had also argued that while they may not have paid for the land, they did pay for those improvements, which still, it's an issue that is up for this debate. But I think this is an old debate that I think we need to look at. How do we move forward? I personally am one of those, you could say, I have a personal experience from my own father. When they took the land from my grandfather and my father, they took the livestock, they destroyed our homes. While we may have gotten our land back as Zimbabweans, during the land reform, we were not compensated for what we had on the land and the livestock they stole. They just took from us. Be it as it may, it was a tiebreaker for the Lancaster Agreement. So the agreement stood that the improvements on the land, the farmers would be compensated by the government. And that's how the Lancaster Agreement ended, and that's how we ended up with the ceasefire that gave birth to Zimbabwe as we know it. The agreement clearly stated that from 1980 to 1990, the government would not engage in the land redistribution program. However, if any Black Zimbabweans wanted to buy land, they were welcome to negotiate with the farmers if the farmers wanted to sell. So it was a private citizen situation, willing buyer, willing seller, from 1980 to 1990. And then starting 1990, the land reform would be implemented. The land reform was very clearly laid out. It started with the farmer being given what they called Section 8 letter. Section 8 letter would notify the farmer that your land has been identified for redistribution by the government, and that the farmer had 3 years to negotiate with the government and pick the best 400 hectares of land. If you wanted to keep the 400 hectares around the homestead, you're welcome to do so. At that time, as a Zimbabwean, you were guaranteed 400 hectares of land if you were going to be engaged in commercial farming. And then after 3 years, if you do not go to the government to negotiate with them about which part of the farm you wanted to take, keep in mind, a lot of these farmers were sitting on thousands of hectares, 20, 30, 50,000 hectares. Oppenheimer was sitting on 962,000 hectares of land, which is over 2 million acres of land.
Wow.
Yes. And at that time, they were no longer farming any of it. The Oppenheimer's land in Zimbabwe was larger than the country of Belgium. There were just some serious abuses of hoarding land and just keeping it while the real owners of the land were struggling in some of the worst parts of Zimbabwe. So be it as it may, there was Section 8 that notified the farmer, and they were given 3 years to negotiate. If they did not negotiate, the next letter was Section 5, which gave them 6 months to come and negotiate with the government. If the farmer still did not come to negotiate with the government, then Section 3 gave them 90 days. And by that time, the government would have technically taken ownership of the land, and the farmer now had access to the homestead and the path leading out. And if after the 90 days, the farmer still doesn't come to negotiate with the government, then the government could move in at any time to evict them. This process was agreed upon during the Lancaster Agreement. It was clearly stated that that's how the land redistribution program would take place. And as the government would notify Britain as the land was being identified for redistribution, everything, if things had gone on well, like they were supposed to be, it was a simple matter of Britain sending in the funds, and the farmers would be compensated, and evaluations on the property would be done. Whatever was owed, the government then would pay. Somewhere along the way, things did not go as planned. Zimbabwe continued to issue the letters. Many farmers ignored those letters. There were some that were so racist. They're known to have made comments like they were not going to listen to the CAFA. So what ended up happening was a chaotic situation. 20 years later, we were now in 2000, year 2000. And the freedom fighters were now really going after the government, saying we fought. Independence was 20 years ago. We still don't have the land. So what is going on, President Mugabe? And at that time, of course, President Mugabe was also between a rock and a hard place. Section 8 letters had been issued. Section 5 letters had been issued. Section 3 letters had been issued. And many of the farmers were refusing to negotiate with the government. This really created a very bad situation, where then the freedom fighters then decided we spent all those decades of years in the bush fighting for this land. We've been very patient. It's been 20 years since independence, and we still are not having access to our land. And then, of course, the government began to let our people know that we are following the Lancaster Agreement to the T, but we are having difficulties with the farmers leaving or even coming to negotiate with the government. And so that's when slowly the land invasions began. People were frustrated. You can imagine if you were a local who lived around Oppenheimer's farm, he is sitting and holding over 2 million acres of land, and while thousands of locals are squattering in the periphery of his farm. It was reported that at this time, Oppenheimer, he was living in South Africa, but he would fly into Zimbabwe for sentimental reasons, for maybe a couple of hours a month, just to be at the homestead where his grandparents lived. And so it was pretty abusive in a way. So you can understand why the locals began to take matters in their own hands. What I can say is what ended up happening between the farmers using the propaganda machinery to, situations would occur. There are many other situations I'm quite aware of where some propaganda situations were set up. I remember, I have a home in a small town called Kwekwe. There was a white farmer he was a white guy who never had a farm. But what he would do is every morning he would come to the outskirts of the farm, and he would have a few farm equipment in front of him, and he would sit under a tree with a sign saying, "Displaced farmer." But we all knew him. He was one of the local residents. He had a house in the city. He was not a farmer. And of course, the media was all over Zimbabwe, and they would take pictures of him. And before you know it, it was all over. It was all over the world. I remember another time, I was actually in Zimbabwe at that time, and there was this chaotic situation that was shown on CNN. And there were these, black people were supposedly stealing from white farmers. They were carrying refrigerators, and they were pushing cars. How do you steal a car? By pushing it. You live in a village. How do you steal a TV or a refrigerator? And so I was in Zimbabwe, and I'm thinking, which Zimbabwe is this one? It just looked like black people were just going crazy in Zimbabwe and stealing from white farmers. And I later found out the following day that it was all staged in some remote part of Zimbabwe. There were about 10 farmers who got together, and they wanted to just create this chaotic situation. Needless to say, CNN got there even before the local police could get in. And of course, they took their photographs of this seemingly chaotic situation. But they had staged it and asked their own workers to stage all this. And of course, soon after CNN had gone through and taken their photographs, the farm workers went back and returned all those things they were supposed to have stolen. So by the time the local police arrived, they rounded up all the farm workers and told them that they were thieves, and therefore they have to be arrested. So they were all arrested. But what was interesting, which the international community did not see, were the white farmers the following day all lined up at the police station to bail their farm workers. Why? Suddenly, they no longer have the maid to cook for them. They no longer have the laborers to work on the farm, because they were all arrested by the police, because we saw them on television, stealing televisions and pushing cars. And so the police were saying, well, these are thieves. You called us to say they were thieves, and we saw it on CNN. So yeah, we're just doing the right thing. Why are you coming to to bail them out if you're accusing them of being thieves. But what I'm trying to say is it became a chaotic situation where you don't know what was, at some point, what is the chicken, what is the egg. People were angry, tensions were high. The Zimbabweans wanted their land back. The government was in a quandary. They found themselves between a rock and a hard place. The result, however, when it's all said and done, the people of Zimbabwe, the average person on the street, has suffered for decades, starting with during the war, then after the war, and then now the economic situation. What ended up happening, instead of having a smooth land reform program, we ended up with a chaotic land reform program. The farmers were never compensated by Britain. Part of it as well also, there are some of the farmers who are quite racist. They are the ones who lobbied for sanctions against Zimbabwe. They are the ones who told Britain not to send money to Zimbabwe, claiming the government was corrupt. And then, of course, the different administrations changed in the UK. The later administrations were not interested in the compensations. And so it is. The farmers were never compensated for the land, nor the improvements on the land, according to the Lancaster Agreement. Many left the country, but I'm glad to tell you that a lot of the white Zimbabweans who left the country, they came back because they suddenly realized that the only country they know is Zimbabwe. Many went to Kenya thinking, oh, it's a former British colony, but they found out that the land reforms in Kenya would not accommodate them. They found out they were given, oh, you come to Britain, we will take care of you. They found themselves on welfare. I remember I ran into quite a few right here in the US. It was just very difficult for them, for some of them, to adjust. They could never live outside Zimbabwe in the manner that they lived in Zimbabwe. So many have come back. There are parts of Zimbabwe right now. You can go to.
Do you think that? Do you think that Mugabe would have? Okay.
Yeah, okay. I'm saying this to say because it's important that people understand the history. So as we react to the stories, we want to know the background, the history behind it. So many of them are back. They finally come full circle. They realize that the only country they know and the only country they can go and claim anything is Zimbabwe. And many are back now. They are working with the government. If anything, they're the ones that are leading this again now, the champion to have, they're championing the issue of the sanctions against Zimbabwe. The sanctions against Zimbabwe were put in place precisely because of the land reform program. Even though the land reform program was the cornerstone of independence, it needed to happen. There was a clean process. Had that process been carried out, we would not have ended up where we ended up. Be it as it may, on 3 separate occasions, the issue of amending the Constitution was raised. And I can tell you on 3 separate occasions, over 80% of Zimbabweans voted to compensate the farmers for the improvements on the land. That's something people are not aware of.
Oh, wow.
The opportunities. There were opportunities for Zimbabweans to change the Constitution, but the Zimbabweans chose not to. Over 80%, they chose not to amend the Constitution. So here we are now. We are talking about the rule of law. We're talking about being a continent, a country, a world that we are asking for what's right to be done. We want to live in a righteous world where we believe in doing the right thing, what's right and what's fair. Now, farmers are coming back and say, your Constitution says you should compensate us for the improvements on the land. That is where we are. The Zimbabweans had an opportunity to change the Constitution, but they did not. And there are documents out there, so you don't have to believe me. Look for the documents. The documents are there. Zimbabweans could have changed the Constitution. That was not done. And it was up to the people.
Okay.
But be it as it may, this is where we are. For me, I rise above it to say, having seen, I lived in the war, during the war in Zimbabwe, we suffered tremendously. I was the victim of some serious abuses during the war. And then after independence, I did miss that boat for quite a few years. but I go home often. I've been going home often since the land reform began, and I have seen how things have changed over time, the suffering that Zimbabweans have gone through. For those who are jumping up and down and complaining about the arrangement that has come up, I also urge you, as you make your point, to stop for a second and begin to appreciate what Zimbabweans, the average man and woman on the street in Zimbabwe, is going through. Zimbabweans, I urge all of you, have suffered. Life in Zimbabwe, it's so difficult because of the sanctions. The sanctions have got to come to an end. There's no basis for them. They need to come to an end. So while we talk about how we feel, and I get it, I understand it. I understand the anger and where it's coming from. But at the end of the day, think about the little girl today who's going to die from starvation. Think about the woman today who's going to die while giving birth to another child because of poor health care. Think about the young man who's on the street today and is going to commit suicide because he is struggling, he can't make ends meet, he can't get a job. Think about those people. What is your making noise going to do for them? We need solutions. We can't always be complainers while others are suffering. Think about those who are suffering today, not tomorrow, but today. Think of those who are going to die today, not tomorrow, because of the conditions on the ground. At some point, we have to say, what is leadership all about? What is governance all about? It's about saying we are going to take care of our people. The people of Zimbabwe have suffered. What we have now on the table, either no agreement was reached, or we have this agreement that stands to bring into Zimbabwe 3.5 billion, the liquidity that Zimbabwe so desperately needs. I can tell you, the government already has organizations, institutions out of the UK that are ready to help and work with the government and the farmers to raise that 3.5 billion. If there was no agreement, this liquidity would never come.
Why does it cost so much? Why does it cost so much money?
Let me say this.
Some of the factors that contributed such a high amount of money.
Let me say this. The figure was agreed upon. This process has been going on for a long time. These negotiations have been going on for a long time. The farmers had their own evaluations. The government had its own evaluations. When they could not come to an agreement because they were so far apart from each other, they then the government reached out to other countries. And so they had appraisers from like 5, 6 African countries to come and do the appraisals as well. So it was a collection and an average of appraisals that were made by the government, by the farmers, and by independent appraisers from outside Africa. But it really doesn't matter, and I really want people to pay attention to this. The GDP of Zimbabwe is about 5 billion. There's no way Zimbabwe will come up with 3.5 billion. So even if the figure was 5 billion, the government is still saying, we don't have the money. So let's work together with you farmers. Let's see if we can fundraise that money. Let's come up with creative ways of getting this money into Zimbabwe. So even if it's 5 billion, that same money was going to come into the Zimbabwean Reserve Bank. It's going to circulate in the Zimbabwean economy. It's going to introduce the liquidity the country needs, the liquidity that the government will not be able to raise on their own. So I want people to look at it from a very practical point of view. If you assume there was no agreement, there was no reason for the white farmers to go fundraise. So now we have the farmers on one end, the government on one end, and life continues as usual. We're still struggling. Zimbabweans are dying. The economy is just ground to a halt. The economy of Zimbabwe has been ground to a halt because of the sanctions. I want people to understand that. So as you voice your anger, which I understand fully, and don't get me wrong, I am the one who should be championing to say, I too need to be compensated. Because when they took the land from my father and my grandfather, we were not compensated for what the British took in terms of our livestock and homes they destroyed. So I get your point. I feel your pain. But I also say, I also know the conditions on the ground. At some point, we've got to look out for that starving child, for that unemployed youth, for the dying mother, the dying father, the lack of access to quality education, and what the sanctions have done. The country is in a serious situation. The sanctions must be lifted. And if we can introduce liquidity into the country, the same rules that will stop these farmers from taking the money out of the country are going to apply. Those funds are going to circulate in the country. And if it's going to be a way of making sure that we begin to turn the economy around, I really urge everyone to stop and look at it from that point of view and answer the question, and then what?
So Ambassador, will it ever be possible to amend the laws in the Constitution, since, Black farmers who got forced out of the land by the British were also never compensated?
Yes, I think the opportunity would have been there. What I would like to look at it from a different point of view, to say, as Black people in general, what was done in Zimbabwe was done in many other African countries. The real conversation, if we're going to be serious, we should have a conversation about reparations. We are owed reparations. What the British did to Zimbabwe, they did in Kenya, they did in all their colonies, the Germans, the French, and some of it continue in different ways. What is needed is reparations. Where we need to come together as Black people is to also, we have a very strong case to make when it comes to reparations. I think we have a very simple solution that we could come up with if we could speak with one voice, to say the African Union has said, in order to completely build out the African infrastructure, we need 100 billion a year for the next 10 years. Well, why don't we extend it to 100 billion a year for the next 20 years? But then we look at saying, how do we Black people get compensated globally? There is a case to be made against the Europeans. There's a case to be made against the US government. And there's a case to be made to the UN to see to it that these regions, these countries collectively, they benefited immensely, and they continue to benefit to this day from free labor, from looting out of Africa, from the exploitation of Africa, which continues to this day. They built Europe, they built the United States, and Blacks were never compensated. Even the Germans, after the Japanese, sorry, after bombing Pearl Harbor, even they got compensated, and so they were given reparations. The Jews were given reparations, but yet the Black people have not been given reparations. I really think that that's where we need to take our conversation, because we all need to be compensated. Black people, we all suffered. They gave mere pittance to the Kenyans, which was really ridiculous. Britain.
And why is that? Mom, you mentioned everybody has been compensated, but not the Black people. Why is it us? We always seem to be the last person to ever get anything.
Well, let me give an example. For example, the white farmers united, and they came together and they organized, and they have been making their case for years. We Black people need to also learn from other people. And I speak to this all the time. We are the only race that never comes together. We are good at making noise, but when it comes to actually looking at the issues and coming up with an action plan and executing and putting our money where our mouths are, that's where we fall short. There is a need for us to speak with one voice. I am hoping that if we have new leadership at the African Union, the new chairman of the African Union can pick up that call and make sure we do have a case to be made. And as you can see from what's coming up around the world, nobody is denying that Black people are owed compensation. We just need to organize ourselves. And I think the easiest thing, in my opinion, and I'm working with a group of lawyers, and we're going to be tabling what we feel should be reparations, not only for the Africans, but for all Black people around the world. If you look at a situation where we say Europe and the US, the East should pay 50 billion a year to Africa, and those funds are used to build Africa using the African Continental Free Trade Area. And those companies from outside that are going to be getting the contracts to build Africa, they have to give a certain percentage of their profits to Black communities in those areas. That way we can have Black people who don't have to pay tuition. Their tuition was paid years ago by our ancestors. Black people should be able to access loans that were denied to them in order for them to economically empower themselves. There are certain things we could do with those funds that we can begin to turn around and globally empower Black people who are currently around the world, not only in Africa, but around the world, who are also victims of the discrimination and racism that has left them way behind in terms of economic development. So what is needed is for us Black people to also say, we need to make our case. Our case is an easy one. As you can see from many organizations, Lloyd's of London, many companies are coming up and apologizing. Here in the United States, North Carolina, they're looking at compensating their Black people in that state. So the conversation is going to be an easy one. What's needed is for us to unite and speak with one voice. And that is one area we have always failed as Black people. But I can honestly let you know that on my end, I've started the work of making sure that we can speak with one voice and table our issues and the need for reparations to the right platforms, because that is what we need to do. So let's come together and let's table our case for reparations as Black people. Let's unite just like other races have done. They've gotten their compensation because they came together, they spoke with one voice. We need to do the same thing as Black people. We are owed and everybody knows it. Nobody is denying it. Let's get on with it.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. So after the land reforms, who do the farmlands belong to? After it's all said and done, who has the title for the land?
The land actually belongs to the government. The land belongs to the government. So you're given a list to farm. There are many Blacks who are given land, and there are many who are not farming it. The land is slowly being taken back. The land belongs to the government. The farmers they'll never own the land. They have the right to farm it if they should apply for it and get it just like any other Zimbabwean would. But the land always belongs to the government. Let me also say,
Ambassador, do you think it's important for other African countries? Okay. Go ahead.
Let me also say, it's important too that as we go through this process, we try to understand the conditions on the ground. For example, one of the agreements, part of the discussions is that a lot of them, like I said, the white farmers are back. And the government is on a program where they're giving land and encouraging farming among the youth farmers. And it's really refreshing to see how many young people are really, really interested in farming in Zimbabwe. And so part of it is to say, we have all these experienced farmers who are now sitting in Harare. They're more than happy to partner with these young youth farmers and begin to share what they know, with them. There's a certain level of communication that I think as we go through this process, I want and urge everybody to really try and understand the conditions on the ground in Zimbabwe. But let me also say, I feel your pain. I know exactly where you're coming from. But as we go through that process of feeling the pain and understanding where we come from, let's also come out with a solution. Let's come up with a solution. Problems are there to be solved. Let's come together with a solution. And above all, do not forget what the people on the ground are going through. The people of Zimbabwe are suffering tremendously. The sanctions must be lifted.
Absolutely. Ambassador, do you think it's important for other African countries to also come and support Zimbabwe, especially during this period?
Oh, you are so right, my daughter. The issue in Zimbabwe is everybody's problem. What we need to do also, we need to start looking at, that's just not a Zimbabwean issue. This is an African issue. This is a Black people issue. That's why you see the outrages from all around the world, which is a good thing. I just wish we could translate the outrage. If I would call out and say, everybody who is upset right now, let's put up a fund, $10 for Zimbabwe. Guess what? We would solve Zimbabwe's liquidity issues. But let's see how quickly we all scatter like monkeys. It's good and easy to complain. Let's come up with a fund. Let's all take ownership of what's going on in Zimbabwe. Let's come up $10 everybody. There are 400 million Black people in the world. If we are outraged, let's take our outrage and translate it into dollars and cents. Let's see how many of them will do it. A very small percentage. Wherein lies our problem as Black people. So we have to realize and own our issues and begin to work towards doing better. We need to work towards doing better. And so let's not just be noisemakers. If you care about what happens to Zimbabwe, what would be nicest if they were to start a Zimbabwean fund, a diaspora fund. Let's see how many people would contribute. I can tell you from our own experience, hardly any. We are waiting now for the same white men to fund that diaspora fund, because we will not take it to the next level. We will not take our anger to the next level. So we need to get out of being noisemakers to also having solutions. I often tell people, when you saw that the images we saw in, I think it was Virginia, when those KKK people were carrying those torches and talking about the Jews, you never saw a single Jew come on TV to complain. But I can tell you, there were some serious conversations taking place behind the scenes. We must learn to do that too. We must be action-oriented, result-oriented, and just not noisemakers. Look at the situation on the ground, analyze it, then strategize, and come up with a solution, and be prepared to implement. We cannot just continue to be noisemakers. We need to provide solutions. And so, yes, my daughter, that is not a Zimbabwean problem. It is an African problem. It is a Black person problem. What happens in Kenya, what happens in Ethiopia, what happens in Egypt, let's embrace all of it. Those are our issues, and we need to deal with them collectively, in a united way, and in a responsible way that is forward-thinking, that is progressive. Back in the 60s, we fought with bazookas. That time called for the bazooka. It called for M16s. It called for AK-47. This time is different. It's calling for economic war. This is an economic war, and we fight it with the mind. We fight it with the mind. So to think you can continue to pull out a bazooka today is not going to work. This is a battle of the mind. It is an economic war. We fight it with the tools that we need to have to fight the economic war. You pull the right tools for the right job.
Absolutely. Ambassador, do you think that, us as Black people, as Africans, we feel more, so for instance, if a Black person is living in the UK, she feels entitled to everything that the UK has to give. But if a white person is living in, Africa, we don't think that they should have the same entitlements. Is it because, are we still stuck in the slavery because we think that, they took out all of these stuff from Africa, but we still want, the British passport or the US passport or whatever it is that they are offering, but we're still not thinking of moving back home ourselves, but we want to be entitled to what the British land or the US land is offering, but we don't want the white people to have it vice versa in Africa?
Well, I think a lot of it, again, it goes back to the history. When you look at the Zimbabwean issue, what makes it particularly different, we're not saying a white person who is an American or a French or a German cannot come and acquire property in Africa. They can do that. The same way we are acquiring property in their nations. The Zimbabwean issue is a little different because it's a special group of people who benefited from stolen property. That's what makes the difference. They benefited. I use an example of myself. I'm a third generation dispossessed granddaughter. So you take an example of, I like to use the example of Oppenheimer because Nick Oppenheimer and me are about same age. And around the same time that his grandfather was stealing land from my grandfather, I then lived a life, I was impoverished because of what somebody similar to Oppenheimer's grandfather did to my grandfather. I lived an impoverished life because my grandparents were dispossessed of their wealth. On the other hand, Oppenheimer, he lived a privileged life because of the behavior of his grandfather who stole from the local people. So here we are, fast forward, Oppenheimer is worth 7.5 billion. He inherited and has gotten he's wealthy from stolen property. His parents, they abused locals, forced labor, they went into diamonds and mining and amassed all this wealth, taking advantage of people in Southern Africa. I, on the other hand, I lived an impoverished life because what was done to my grandparents. So the Zimbabwe situation is different. It needs to be looked at it for what it is. So we are not really comparing apples and apples in this particular case. Yes, my daughter, you can go to Britain, you can buy land, that's fine. If a British man was to come to Zimbabwe, they want to buy land and buy property, that's fine. The Zimbabwean situation is a little different because they inherited stolen property. And that's why the conversation is a little different. But again, let's look at it in the context of today. Let's look at it in the context of what is on the ground. Let's look at it in the context of how do we improve the lives of the child who is starving to death today? How do we take care of that child? It's easy for us to talk about it from 10,000 miles away. Let's not forget the conditions on the ground. And as people in leadership, they must look at it from that point of view to say, yes, while we understand that there's a problem here, there are issues here, but where do we go from here? We want to be progressive people, and let's understand, like I said, the war of the bazookas is over. This is an economic war, and it is a war that we must fight with economic tools. We must fight with the mind. What are the tools in our toolbox? What are the economic tools in our toolbox? In this particular case, liquidity was a serious problem for Zimbabwe, and most Zimbabweans can tell you that. So if these farmers can go and lobby and bring in 3.5 billion, and they have turned around and they realize that Zimbabwe is home, and they are willing to work with the government and behave just like any other Zimbabwean and do the right thing and deal with other Black people in Zimbabwe and realize that discrimination, racism, bigotry, and hate will not be tolerated in Zimbabwe, will not be tolerated in Africa, will not be tolerated in the world, then fine. But they have to clearly behave in such a manner that they understand that this is where life is going to be in Africa. This is how Black people demand to be treated. And so we continue to toot our horn, we continue to speak our truth, we continue to demand how we must be treated with respect. And that definitely there's no room for discrimination in any way, shape, or form in Zimbabwe, in Africa, or anywhere on earth when it comes to Black people or any other race for that matter. That we must continue to fight, that we must continue to demand. And I really think that is the forward thinking that this world, this moment, this time is calling for.
Absolutely. Ambassador, but do you think that somebody sent me a message that Mugabe will be turning in his grave? Do you think he would have ever agreed to this, what is happening currently in Zimbabwe?
Actually, what people don't realize, the conversations actually started with President Mugabe. So President Mnangagwa is just finishing a conversation that had already been ongoing in terms of negotiating about how much the farmers should be compensated. President Mugabe was aware of it. It was an issue that's been ongoing. As a matter of fact, he was also part of the constitution amendment that people decided that the farmers should be compensated. So yes, he was part of the initial conversations.
Okay. There's a question up. Somebody says, how long will it take the Zimbabwean government to pay, and will sanctions be taken off currently after the payment?
To be very honest with you, how long it's going to take Zimbabweans to pay, it depends on how quickly the white farmers can raise the money. They're really going to have to really do most of the heavy lifting to bring some of these funds in. So if they want to get paid, they need to get going and move fast. It depends on how much lobbying they can do to get certain things to happen. So they pretty much have to decide. Like I said, you could almost say this is a self-funded compensation in a nutshell. And I want people to understand it as such. So they get to determine, how fast they can lobby and get certain things in place, because to some extent, actually, if you think about it, they lobbied for these sanctions against Zimbabwe back in the 90s. And so it's good to see that they're now lobbying to have the sanctions lifted, because they created the monster that is now creating what is Zimbabwe. But be it as it may, like I said, they're turning around, they're coming back home. They finally realize that if they want to come home to Zimbabwe, they need to behave like a Zimbabwean and respect the government and abide by the rules and the laws of Zimbabwe. If they are willing to do that, Zimbabwe will welcome them. Zimbabwe is home for them. They just need to realize they're not superior to anybody, and they need to behave just like any other Zimbabwean. Was there a second part?
Thank you, Ambassador. If you have any questions, please, before I go on to the next topic with Ambassador, if you have any questions, please send it to us right now. Make sure that you're sharing your pages as well with your friends and loved one on Facebook, on YouTube. Let's talk about what happens in our community, what matters to Black people, what matters to us as a community, and how we can support each other. Now, Ambassador, does racism still exist in Zimbabwe?
Does racism still exist? I'll be a fool to think that racism
in Zimbabwe, yeah.
I'll be foolish to tell you that racism doesn't exist in Zimbabwe. It'll be foolish of me to think that every white person in Zimbabwe is just wonderful and sees us as equals. There's always going to be a certain percentage of the fringes of this society that are going to be racist. They are there. We hopefully we can scoop them out as often as we get them. But they also need to know there's no room for that in Zimbabwe, and we'll continue to speak against it. And every time we encounter it, we're going to fight it viciously. So no, yes, we still have racism in Zimbabwe, but it's hidden. It's in their bedrooms. It's in their homes. But it will not be tolerated on the streets of Harare. Or streets of Zimbabwe, for that matter.
Okay, Gary Houston says, yes. Gary says, my question to Ambassador is that if the white farmers are paid, are they going to leave Africa, or are they going to be staying in Zimbabwe?
The funds have to be spent in Zimbabwe. There are laws through which you can request funds out of Zimbabwe. They will have to abide by those laws as well. Very strict. If you're traveling, you got to justify why you need those funds to go out. If you're going to the United States, for example, they have a formula of how much roughly, kind of like a per diem. The average hotel in the US, if you're going to be staying in New York City, you get a per diem that's a little bit higher. If you're going to be staying in some little town somewhere, they have every city in the world mapped out in terms of how much per diem you're given if you're going to be traveling and for how long. So they calculate how much you're allowed to take out. So no, the funds are going to stay in Zimbabwe.
Okay, that's fantastic. That's good to know. So Ambassador, one question that people have been asking, and I even saw a petition that, people want you to run for the AU chairman, even though, you were removed last year, but people still want you to, go for it and be the chairperson. Is it something that you are considering? Can we, see our mother, running for the AU chairperson?
Well, I was kind of disappointed earlier this week. My friend, the deputy chairperson, current deputy chairperson of the African Union, Ambassador Kwesi Kwete, he had spoken to me and he wanted my support and he wanted to run. And I had pledged my support for him to run for the next chairperson of the African Union. But I found out on Monday that the president did not nominate him. And so so that sort of put a little damper on my plans. Because for me, as long as we had somebody that I could work with, somebody who understands the importance of the diaspora, that's my thing. Because I do know that we cannot have a successful implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area without a significant participation of the African diaspora. That is my thing, and I'll push and fight for that. Otherwise, we'll be opening Africa for the Chinese to quadruple their presence, the Europeans to quadruple their presence. We are not saying we don't want them in Africa. We are simply saying the development agenda for Africa must be driven and led by the Africans. And by Africans, I mean all people of African descent living outside Africa. So we have to be in charge. But for us to be in charge of the continental development agenda, we also must have the needed expertise, needed financial muscle, and all that is in the diaspora. So I'm hoping that whoever is going to be the next chair of the African Union understands the importance of the African diaspora, how the African diaspora we must have ambassadors coming out of the diaspora to join the Permanent Representative Council in Addis, which is the council that is made up of one ambassador from each country. They live in Addis. They're the ones that decide on a day-to-day basis the agenda for the African Union. And so we need representation at the African Union. We need diaspora on the table, not only to advocate for the diaspora, but also to join the other ambassadors and the other leaders in shaping the direction in which Africa is going to take. Those conversations can only be successfully carried out if we have the right person sitting at the chairmanship of the African Union Commission. The current chairperson clearly doesn't get it. He has no interest in the diaspora. He has not done anything to incorporate the diaspora. What I was trying to do when I was the permanent representative for the African Union, he completely destroyed everything, dismantled it. And to this day, the mission is still empty. The lights are out. It's back to being dead like it was before I came. That's not the leadership that we want. I understand he's trying to run again. It depends on who else is going to come up as wanting to run. I understand Ghana had nominated, I think there was Ivan Chambers, but I found out today that he withdrew his nomination. And so I don't know who else is running. I'm keeping an eye on it. If nobody else runs and it remains the current chair, I'm definitely going to run because that is unacceptable. We can't have 4 more years of an AU that's basically imploded.
Well, you have our full backing. I know that it's not going to be voted by us. It's going to be voted by the heads of state. But I'm sure that some of the heads of state will be voting for you to become AU chairman because we feel your vision. We see the vision that you want to carry, and we are full support. And so it will be nice for a woman, to run for the AU chairman.
Absolutely. I think also, as African female leaders, going back in history, we have many female warriors that have come up, but we have never been placed on the pedestal that we belong. This moment as well is calling for strong female leadership. And our men are getting it. They're understanding it. I talk to a lot of men who says, you know what, women, we're ready to step aside and let you take over for a change. I think we women just need to organize and realize that this moment is calling for strong women leadership. And I'm glad to say our men are ready to let us have it. All we need to do is organize and run with it.
Absolutely. Somebody says, how can we get the politicians to come together and speak with one voice instead of fighting each other?
Well, again, it goes back to you start somewhere and just keep working at it. It's about changing the minds. The biggest problem that we have as Black people, and I speak to this all the time, is the mind. That is where the Berlin Conference defeated us. That's where the colonizers defeated us. We have been so brainwashed that we don't even realize how far off base we are. The self-hate and mistrust of each other is singularly the most destructive element of our beings. What other races are capable of doing, which is simply uniting for the ultimate benefit of their race, of their nation, we are totally incapable of doing. I use an example of just living here in the United States, which is a melting pot. When you ask for the voices of the Chinese diaspora, loud and clear, they stick together like super glue. The Chinese 30 years ago, they did not ask what China can do for them. What the Chinese did was, what can we do for China? So they came together, they're united, and we have the China that we have today, a very powerful nation, a nation that's slowly taking over the world. Well, let's ask for the voices of even the Mexicans in this country. They stick together. They have Mexican community centers. They take care of their own issues. They help each other. They access funds that are available for diaspora. You ask for the voices of the Irish, the German Americans, the Italian Americans, the Jews, all loud and clear. But you ask for the voices of the Black people, you might as well go to the graveyard. The Igbos in the same community don't even get along as Igbos, let alone as Nigerians. You know, we are so divided in a very sad, pitiful way. We cannot get along to save our lives. We are so selfish when it comes to money. We talk, we complain. But when you ask, because this world, it takes money to get things done. But try getting a Black person to put $10 into something. What do you have to lose? It's $10. If you didn't donate that $10, what were you going to do with it? I challenge women. Look at how many shoes and handbags and clothes still intact with tags on in your closets. Young women, you wear these Brazilians. It's for you young people. I hear this stuff is like $1,000 to buy this Brazilian hair. The useless ways that we spend money. If we could just stop and say, you know what? Some things are just more important and that we need to just stop and think about it. But let's take a page out of other races and nationalities and let's begin to think like they do. Look inwards and say, what can we do to change our circumstances? And that is a difficult thing for us because we were brainwashed, which brings me to another point. It is precisely because of my realization that our biggest enemy is our mind, that we are still suffering to a great extent from the legacy of slavery and colonization. Singularly, that is where they defeated us. Singularly, that's where we are failing to come together and speak with one voice. Singularly, that's where we are always names makers. And yet when it comes to getting things done, we look back to the same people we are making noise about, the white men, and expect them to come and rescue us. That has got to change. So it's because of that I wrote a book, which is called Africa 101, The Wake Up Call. Africa 101, The Wake Up Call. It's on Amazon as an ebook, and you can preserve yours on africa101.org, africa101.org. Get a copy of The Wake Up Call. My hope is by the time you finish reading that book, I have taken you through an analytical process of trying to understand us as a Black race, where we have been, where we were before the colonizers came, what they did to take everything that was ours, how they have demoralized us over time, and why we are where we are today. The games they played before, the games they continue to play today. And it's a wake-up call to say, now you know, what are you going to do about it? Africa 101, The Wake-Up Call. I urge all of you to get your copy on africa101.org, or you can go to Amazon and get your ebook.
Yeah, I'm just going to put the link of Amazon right now on the comments box so you guys can just click on it and get buy-in. It's important that we all get this book today, register. And also, if you haven't registered on RADDI, it's time that you registered. I have put the details on the screen. So please do go for this is the details for Amazon, which I'm putting up on the screen. That is the direct link that you can go on and, purchase the book. It is very, very important that we do so. Ambassador, do you believe that Kwame Nkrumah's dream of a united Africa is still possible for us today?
Very much so. I am very encouraged by what I see happening with our youth. Our youth are getting it. Our youth just needed to be armed with knowledge and understanding, and our youth are going to take off. Yes, that dream is very much possible, especially now. I am very, very inspired by our youth. That is why, and that's another single reason why I'm going to fight to unite. I'm going to fight to make sure that we empower ourselves. I'm going to fight to make sure that united, we can build a better Africa for our youth. Our youth are our hope. Our youth, once they're armed with knowledge and understanding, yes, they are the ones who are going to realize Kwame Nkrumah's dream of an Africa speaking with one voice as one continent, one heart, one mind, heading towards a common destination.
Ambassador, what are the next steps for ADDI? How do people join? You know, what is the focus? What is the mission? And how can people get involved?
ADDI is an entity that I created since leaving office, realizing that there isn't one-stop shop for everything African, that we keep talking about engaging Africa as 1,000 different groups, as millions of people individually. What is needed for Africa is unity. It is unity of all Black people. It is unity of us African diaspora united. Let's take a page out of the Chinese. Let's do what the Chinese did to build the China that we have today. Let's take a page out of the Jews. Let's look at what the Jews did after Hitler to come together and be the strong nation that they are today. We also need to do the same thing. ADDI is calling on all of us people of African descent. Let's have ADDI as our home, where we unite in order to take our place in Africa that has our name. Africa today does not have the capacity Africa needs to build the Africa we want. There's not a single African country today that has the capacity to build an airport, capacity to build a railway line. This is precisely why the African heads of states are looking to China, they are looking to the West for contracts to be filled out because the capacity is not there. Which brings me to another point I would like to highlight to the diaspora. I've had many of you call me complaining about the Chinese this and the Europeans this. Well, I use an example of my girlfriend. I think she's on this call today. And so I mess with her because I can. She's my younger sister. She called me very upset that her government had given all these contracts to the Chinese to build this and to build that. I allowed her to vent. And when she was done, I did ask her, I said, my sister, if you tell me that you know of a group of diaspora who are organized, who are ready to pull their funds together, who have the expertise to go take some of those contracts, I'll call the president and see what he can do. See if he can give some of those contracts to the diaspora. And that's when she started laughing. She said, well, Ambassador, you know, we diaspora, we are not organized. Then the diaspora are not going to pull their funds together. And I said, then, well, my sister, I have another request for you. I want you to go tell that grandmother, 75 years old, she has lived in this village, has never had electricity all her life. I want you to go tell that grandpa who has never had running water. I want you to go tell that mother who has to walk in the mud and bridges that may swallow her in the rain because they've never had a tarred road to their village. Go tell them that they cannot have those amenities, the same amenities that you are enjoying in the Western world. They won't have them because you, sitting pretty in the United States, you, sitting pretty in Europe, do not want the Chinese or any other nations besides us Black people to build those amenities because you say so. Until you are ready to come together and unite to say, grandmother, I know you need electricity, and we're going to come together and we're going to build a 200 megawatt power plant. So for a change, you can have electricity. Until you're ready to do that, you have no platform to complain about why the Chinese are building that plant. Now you have a right to complain about the manner in which the Chinese are treating Africans. That we must speak to. That we're so proud of President Kagame. Recently, he deported 18 Chinese who were mistreating locals. That we must continue to speak to. But when it comes to the contracts to develop Africa, until we are ready to unite and take over those contracts, we don't have a platform to speak from. And that's again something I want to urge all diaspora to say, let's just not be complainers. Let's be result-oriented. Let's pull our funds together. Let's begin to bring the desired sustainable development Africa needs. That means we must speak with one voice. That is what ADDI is doing, creating a platform where we can all speak with one voice. Right now, we've partnered with a company called Traveco, where Traveco has been working on a continental development plan, specifically a corridor from East Africa to West Africa, starting from Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, DRC, Angola, Equatorial Guinea, Cameroon, Gabon, and Central African Republic. People don't realize this middle part of Africa, it is the most expensive corridor to do business from East Africa to Central Africa. Goods from East Africa, they have to travel all the way down to Southern Africa, Cape Town, and then all the way up the West Coast to Cameroon, only to be ferried into Central Africa. Extremely expensive. You cannot develop your economies if the cost of doing business is so prohibitive. When we can open that corridor, the plan is to start with a major hub port in East Africa and another major hub port in West Africa. We're basically going to be connecting the Indian Ocean with the Atlantic Ocean. When we open that East corridor, we're calling it the East-West Value Corridor. When we open it up, it's going to be easy now to open the rest of the continent. We can easily go to West Africa. We can easily expand into Southern Africa. But that middle of Africa there is no development at all, and it is completely inaccessible. So with Trevecca, we've partnered. It is really an exciting partnership. Trevecca has all the information and all the plans about how we can implement. ADDI is now mobilizing African diaspora to come in with the expertise as well as the funding that is needed. It is really an exciting project. Currently, we are looking for engineers engineers who have experience in road construction, in railways, in ports, in airports and seaports, and there are going to be 3 main corridors. We have the utility corridor, so we need people who are into putting up water pipelines, the gas pipelines, the fiber optics, and so all that is the utility pipeline, the utility corridors from east to west. We're looking for people for the road transportation corridor, we call it. So people in road construction, people in railway construction. We're looking for people in energy corridor. The energy corridor is about taking electricity again from east to west. All that is now very nicely laid out. Every 200 to 300 kilometers from east to west, there's going to be a city. The cities are going to be built around whatever is happening in that area. Some cities are going to be built around agriculture. They could be cotton cities. There could be the cities to do with any kind of agricultural product you can think of. Some will be manufacturing of building materials or textiles. So some will be built around mining. So we will look at what is available as we move from east to west, and cities are going to be built along the way. And the beauty of Africa, the plan that we have right now, you see, it's very difficult to modernize New York City. It's an old city. It is what it is. But Africa now, because every African city currently could use, there's no upgrading. We just have to build a whole new capital city. We can build that futuristic Africa. We can build an Africa that the rest of the world can only dream of. We are ready. The plans are already there. And so ADDI is really moving fast and furious. The plans are there. We already started with teams of engineers. We're beginning to lay the ground. And this is what will surprise you. It's not going to cost that much money. Why? The amount of money we need is minimal. It's minimal to acquire the lands that we need in a very strategic way from east to west. The lands that we are going to acquire for building of the cities are going to have, we're also going to acquire mining assets for gold, for copper, for iron ore, for diamonds, for coltan. All those are valued at trillions of dollars. We're going to monetize those assets to fund the rest of the development from east to west. So all those plans are now ready. ADDI has been working really hard in partnership with Trevecca. And so now we're just mobilizing the diaspora, and it's minimal fundraising. So, but for you, any of you who are interested in learning more about ADDI, and we plan to launch the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, completely driven by the African diaspora in July of next year. So a lot is going on, and it's very exciting. The diaspora are jumping in, and they're ready to play their part, and the plan is laid out. So we urge all of you to go to ouraddi.org. Please just sign up. If you want to donate while you're there, go for it. If you don't want to donate, that's fine. But we need your name. Stand up and be counted so we can keep you informed about all these wonderful, wonderful things happening that are being brought together by ADDI. Our partnership with Travaco and ADDI is actually a marriage made in heaven. You must know all about it.
Absolutely. How important is it for us to get those 1 million names that you speak so much about? You know, we need that 1 million names.
It is very important for us to get the million names. The things that we're going to accomplish with the million names. One, in addition to the projects that we are going to generate for ourselves through the East-West Value Corridor, currently there are projects, there are contracts that are available right now. There's expertise the African heads of states are looking for right now. We could actually say to the heads of states, you have been asking for the children of Africa in the diaspora. Let me make it clear, the heads of states understand the importance of the African diaspora participating in the development of Africa. That is something that they have struggled with, to say, how do we reach the diaspora in a united way? There has not been. ADDI is the first time there's an entity that they could say, we need this expertise, and ADDI can share the information. And so we will be able to say, heads of states, we now have a minimum of 1 million professional diaspora, as well as companies. We want you to give us the first right of refusal of all the contracts that are coming out of your country. With that kind of numbers, the heads of states will honor our request, because the building of Africa is our responsibility, and we must take charge of it. We must take charge of it. We must take ownership of it. The second thing that needs to happen is making sure that our 6th region is officially approved by the heads of states as a region, so we can now be official and participate. That's how we join the Permanent Representative Council. That's how we can demand to get ambassadors from the diaspora to official AU ambassadors to go live in Addis. Also, once that region is approved, the heads of states we're also going to ask that dual citizenship for those who are descendants of the formerly enslaved, who were not born on the continent, to also have a pathway for them to become citizens of African countries. You only need to be a citizen of one country in order to enjoy your Africa fully. So we're also going to hope that the document that we're going to submit to the heads of states will include 2 ways that we are suggesting. One, a pathway to say you can work for 3 years in a country in your profession. After that, you're on the pathway for citizenship. Or you can do like continental Africans. The average continental African, in order to go back home, you need to look at least a couple of $100,000 to be able to go home. You need a house, you need to invest in a business. And so we're saying you do the same thing that the continental Africans would do. If you can come up with 200,000, you buy a home or you invest in a business in whatever country you choose to go to. That's another pathway. Now, before that can be implemented for the whole continent, of course, the heads of states, they take the decision from Addis, from the headquarters of the African Union. They take that decision to their parliament. Their parliament puts it through, they vote on it, it gets approved. So we're looking at dual citizenship and also getting AU ambassadors from the diaspora to go and participate in advocating for Africa at the AU, as well as participate in shaping the future of Africa from the headquarters of the African Union. The third thing that we can do, it will be very easy for us with $1 million to then say, we want to raise X amount. We have a diaspora fund that's currently being registered. Once the fund is registered, it'll be easy now to notify everybody the fund is ready. We are looking for all of you to become shareholders. And my usual example is to say 1 million people with $1,000, that's $1 billion. So now let's make it 2 million people. Let's make it 5 million people. You can see how quickly we can begin to pull our funds together. So again, with 1 million people, it becomes an easy deliverable. $1,000 a year is like $83 a month. So it's an easy thing to do when we are united and our numbers are together. And then, of course, my 4th one, which is my favorite one. By the way, I have a team of lawyers working on the document that we need to push our case for the 6th region. I also have another team of lawyers that's working on the issue of reparations. Again, those are issues that need to be looked at collectively in a united way. And that's what ADDI is saying. ADDI is saying we can no longer continue to be scattered all over the place. We must speak with one voice. ADDI is about looking towards going to get our inheritance in Africa in a united way. ADDI is about saying we're going to play our part in defending and protecting our Africa. ADDI is about saying what happens in Africa, the good, the bad, and the ugly, we own it all. Africa is home, and it is our responsibility to take care of Africa. When we take care of Africa, guess what? What we make in Africa in returns, we can come back home to the United States. We can go home to Europe. We can go home to Australia, wherever we reside, and improve our quality of life in our neighborhoods. This is what other people are doing. White people are going to Africa poor, they come back rich. Chinese are going to Africa poor, they come back rich. The children of Africa are the ones who are supposed to go to Africa poor and come back rich. What is in Africa is your inheritance. You are an inheritor of one of the most amazing continents. You are an origin of humanity. So if you remember anything at all, I need you Black people to stand up on the tallest mountain and understand who you are. A very proud African, a human being who is the origin of humanity, and a human being who is fortunate enough to be an inheritor of a continent that is the envy of the rest of the world. So yes, let's unite, let's speak with one voice, and like I always want to say, with one heart, one mind, one soul, working towards one common destination.
Absolutely. You haven't mentioned the Wakanda homes. The Wakanda homes. This is something that everybody has been talking about.
Wakanda actually is going to be a concept of all the cities that we are going to be building. We're going to start with one regional Wakanda. So as part of the East-West Value Corridor, one of the Wakandas is going to be in Tanzania, which is where the corridor is going to begin. And the other corridor is going to be in Equatorial Guinea, which is where the corridor is also going to end up on the side of the Atlantic Ocean. So we have a place for Central Africa Wakanda. We have a place for East Africa Wakanda. And of course, we already have land for Zimbabwe and Zambia for Southern Africa. And also, we just got land from Cape Coast area in Ghana for the Wakanda for Central Africa. I mean, for West Africa. The only area, region that we don't have land yet is going to be North Africa, but we're looking at Morocco. I think once I have time to really put into it, we should be able to get some land out of Morocco as well.
Fantastic. And somebody's asked, are you working with Akon on the smart city?
Akon is a brother. We talk often, and we had talked about trying to see if we can come up with a shareholding position, because he really, really wants diaspora to get involved and invest in the Akon city. But again, the problem is just getting us to gather together, which is why I'm hoping as we continue to increase our numbers, we need to get Akon to where he can come up and do a presentation. He really, really wants the diaspora to get involved in Akon City. So I hope that we can continue to have a conversation and find a way of creating a pathway for diaspora to be shareholders in Akon City.
Absolutely. Ambassador, can you see this on the screen?
Yes, the issue of the, it's really sad. When you look at Africa, the largest continent, it's unfortunate that Africa is not one of the, should be six then. If you take the 6 countries, the 5 countries that are members of the UN Security Council, Africa should be in there. One of the African countries, or at least when AU can do it because AU doesn't have sovereignty. But at least we should have an African country at any given time being a member of the UN Security Council. That's something we've been fighting for. We'll continue to fight for until it's done. It's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong. There should be an African country in the UN Security Council, particularly the 5 main countries that are, I think one needs to drop out. If I had my choice, France needs to leave the UN Security Council and let one of the African countries take that place.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. I refer back to the issue of the Chinese invasion of Africa. We, as the population of Africans around the world, watch helplessly as China continue to colonize Africa. All it seems we can do is to complain. Our leaders are the decision makers and have sold and continue to sell off bits of Africa to the Chinese. why is the issue not a major topic of discussion for the AU or ADDI? And if it is, what exactly are the plans to address what is currently taking place in Africa by the Chinese?
Let me say, as ADDI, we are doing our part. The way to do it, I'm not just one to sit and complain. I look for solutions. I identify a problem and I look for solutions. The solution is for us to unite and block the Chinese. The solution is for us to unite and take the contracts that the Chinese are taking, because we are not there to take them. I often, and I'm going to keep sounding like a broken record, because I do want you, my sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, to be very realistic about the things that we do. How many of you have gone home and complained about, oh, my mother could not get quality health care, my father could not get this? Well, guess what? And I use my beloved country of Ghana. There are more Ghanaian doctors in New York City than in Ghana. There are more Nigerian doctors in Los Angeles than in Nigeria. How do you expect healthcare to improve if the doctors are in the diaspora? The reality is, no amount of money put into healthcare in Africa would deliver the desired results, because the doctors are not there. I use President Nana Addo as an example, that he thought building more hospitals and renovating old ones was the way he would address issues of healthcare. Most of those hospitals, half of the wards are empty, not because there are no patients, but because there are no doctors. The same is true in every sector. The same is true in every country. The reality is, the intellectual capacity, the expertise that Africa needs to build the Africa that we want is in the diaspora. So for us to sit here and complain about contracts going to China, just like I said earlier, if the Chinese don't build that railway line, if the Chinese don't build that power plant, you diaspora, are you ready to do it? Think about it. Who do you think is going to improve healthcare for your mother, for you when you get sick, when you go to Africa, when you're still hiding in the diaspora? It makes no sense. Now, while I understand that as individuals, you can't do it. That's why I put together ADDI to say, united, we can take care of this. United, we got this. This time is calling for collaborations. Again, let me go back and say, my fellow African diaspora, please, let's not just be noisemakers and complainers. Let's be solution providers. Let's identify our issues, but let's also come up with solutions and be committed to put our money where our mouth is. That is where we fail the most. And that is our biggest disease. Own it, understand it, and begin to heal thyself.
And Mummy, are you seeing a lot of people subscribing to our ADDI? Are people joining? Are we, because even when you look at the comments, we're ready. Yes, let's do this. Like we keep saying, sometimes we talk, but we're not doing any action.
And let me say this. We should have ADDI completely with over 1 million people. We're not charging anybody to sign up. No, it's free. But guess what? Can you imagine if everybody that has complained, for example, about Zimbabwe, if they could just sign up? I could say, everybody give me $10. We're going to send all this money and increase liquidity in Zimbabwe. Now we are taking care of business. You see how quickly we scatter. Why haven't people been signing up? It's free. We just don't do it. That is the disease. That is the disease. And we must all realize we're suffering from it. We must heal from it. We must feel that sense of responsibility, not just for me, but for my family, for my nation, for my continent, for my race. That ability to do so has been taken away from us. We used to have it as African tribes, but they destroyed it. They made us just forget everything about us, everything about unity. We're too busy trying to be something that we can never be. We're just who we are. The proud, the beautiful, the intelligent, sophisticated, and highly adaptable Black people, Africans. Let's accept it. Let's go back to our old glory. Let's go back to who we used to be. united, speaking with one voice. That's what we need. Let's be solution, result-oriented people, not just complainers and noise makers, but that's who we are, my brothers and sisters. That must change. Let's do it for our children, our grandchildren, and generations to come. Stop being selfish. It's not just about you. There are bigger things in life. There comes a time where you say some things are more important than selfishness, than greed, than fear. And that time is now. If you were disgusted by George Floyd, do something about it. Don't just be a complainer. Stand up and be counted. And for me, I'm doing my part. I created ADDI. I'm paving the way for us to go home, united, working towards a common destiny. All I ask is for you to go to addi.org, sign up, so we know where you are, what you do. So when we are ready to call on you, we know where to find you. So you can play your part. You're holding a brick that is needed to build this beautiful African home. Don't let us down. Stand up and be counted. Play your part.
Absolutely. Play our part. Let's all play our part. A few people have said that they have joined ADDI, but they haven't had any feedback. Will the launch in September, then, will people start getting emails and seeing things online that they can invest in and that they can donate to? When will that all start happening? Because there's been a few people that have said they've had nothing back.
Yes, just like I'm telling you. Again, you all have to be patient. That's another problem we have as Black people. We want it all, we want it now. Have you ever wondered what it takes to try and unite the African diaspora? Stop and think about it. I only left office in November of last year. I registered this entity in March. Exactly what do you expect? I just told you about this amazing corridor, that things are getting ready to happen. But somehow your selfish mind, well, I signed up and what's in it for me? What else is going on? Well, who do you think is going to do it? Have you volunteered? Have you called and said, Ambassador, I can do this, I can do that? Or you want to call and say, Ambassador, can you give me a job? What do you think Ambassador is going to pay you from? Are you getting me? That selfishness has got to change. We're organizing. You stand up and be counted. When we have a critical mass, that's when things begin to happen. Just because you alone have signed up, that's not enough. We need more people to sign up. So yes, if you want to begin to see things change, tell more people about it. Call your friends, go to the website, be part of it. But I gave you a sneak preview of what's been going on. I've devoted my life to doing this. I'm a medical doctor. I could be working as a medical doctor, but I know some things are more important. This must be done. And I'm putting my all. I don't have enough staff, but I'm doing what I can. And thank goodness God gave me energy, and I am a fierce worker. Time has nothing to do with what I do. I will work till the job is done. So no, don't worry. You're going to be getting all this information that we're talking about. You're going to be hearing about the value corridor. And like I said, we're targeting the launch. It's going to be in July. There are some things we can't talk about investing, because there are certain things that got to be put in place first. There are some SEC laws that prevents us from talking about investing. I am not a finance person, so I can't tell you about investing, but we have finance teams that are working, registering a bond, registering the diaspora fund. Now with COVID, they were supposed to have gone to Mauritius to complete the process. They can travel. So it's not just because you signed up that you expect things to start happening. Everything takes time. We're trying to unite African diaspora around the world. Think about it. Do you realize what a monumental task that is? Even my husband, from time to time, he will look at me and he'll say, honey, what makes you think you're going to unite the diaspora around the world? I said, I don't know. My mother used to say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. I am not going to worry about step number 59, step number 700, step number 999. I am not going to worry about the hardship that I know are going to take place in step number 33, in step number 599, and step number 780. I acknowledge them. I understand them. And I will strategize if I can from a distance, but I know when I get to that step and I encounter that problem, I am going to find a solution. But that is not going to stop me. My appreciation of what can happen from step 1 to step 1,000 is only going to give me the fuel I need to make sure those obstacles are overcome. Problems are there to be overcome, not to be feared. So the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. Appreciate the hardships, appreciate the challenges, and accept them as a way of life. Because nobody promised us a bed of roses on this earth. We are here to build the Africa that we want. It's not going to be easy. Let's all buckle up and be ready for the fight and be ready for the journey. But I do know one thing. United, persistent, we will be victors. We will be victorious. And that keeps me going. And I refuse to have any negativity pull me down. Challenges are there to be overcome. Work is there to be done. Problems are there to be solved. Get on with it. And that's my attitude. And that's what keeps me going. And that's what drives me. And never will I allow myself to be taken down. Absolutely not.
We appreciate you. We appreciate you so much. There's a few comments that have come in, and someone said, what about transparency? Where their money goes? How do we know what is being done? On the website, would people see that, if you've donated this is what it's gone into? How transparent is the website going to be for people who want to donate?
What I find interesting is we had a conference with a group of young people. Well, first of all, they wanted to know, I want to know the transparency, and I want to know what's going to happen to my money. And then the same conversation. Can the headquarters help us with 5,000 pounds to register our entity here? And I said, there goes the transparency. You want other diaspora to donate so we can turn around and give you the money to other diaspora to register your entity. Are you even making any sense? You have not donated the first dollar and you're already asking for money. What do I tell the other diaspora who donated that, oh, by the way, the money you donated, I gave it to other diaspora because so they could register their entity? Does that even make sense? You see how stupid we are? Stupid. Plain stupid. So before you start talking about accountability, what dollar have you put in? I can tell you right now, I'm completely running the entity. Whatever money has been deposited, it's all sitting there because it's not enough. I am funding ADDI, and I'm determined to do it. You want me to tell you what I'm doing with my money, how much money I'm putting into ADDI? I'd be happy to tell you, but what are you going to do about it? So I'm building ADDI to a point that maybe when you all begin to see things happening, because that's what you guys are asking for. What's in it for me? When that question comes, that's really what you're asking for. What's in it for me? If your question is what's in it for me, step aside. This train is not for you. It might come back around and you get on it. But this train is about people who understand that no more George Floyd. People who understand that we can no longer be exploited. People who understand that I cannot just be disrespected because I have the ability to create melanin. That's who belongs on this train. Anybody that's going to question about what did you do with my $10, by all means, keep it. I don't want it. You are going to be a spoiler in this train. You are going to be a spoiler on this train. But first and foremost, if you can't even get yourself to register for something that is free, how do I expect you to pay $10? Do you see how ridiculous some of the questions are? It needs to stop. That's insulting. It's insulting to my intelligence. You have not even done something that is free, and you're asking for accountability for $10. Do what is free first. Let me see your commitment. You can't even do something so simple. So this train is for people who get it, people who understand it. We have a finance officer. We have a chief financial officer. Those numbers are going to be there. When we start spending the money, of course they will be reporting. But right now, there's no spending going on because I'm funding it all by myself. I am funding it all by myself. So I find it ridiculous that anybody should say, accountability, accountability. I'm laughing. My husband is like, really? These kids are not serious. You know, he was listening to the conversation. He said, these kids are not serious. He said, how do you stay patient in the middle of such stupidity? You know? I said, but I'm a mother. I learned to just rise above it and keep going. But yeah, we have a chief financial officer. He's a wealth manager. He's used to managing billions of dollars for other people. When we start spending money, now you know he's going to be giving us our monthly reports. Right now, the money that's being spent is my donations into ADDI.
Okay. All right. So there will be transparency. I mean, you know, so from what you're saying, Ambassador, there will be that. Once we start investing.
What I find insulting is that anybody would think that I would collect money from anybody and not have accountability. You see what I'm saying? Why would I do that?
Yeah.
It is so insulting. It comes from people who are so shallow-minded. They're so used to dealing with petty cash. I don't play those games. What I'm saying is, right now, I'm spending my money. I'm investing in ADDI because I believe in it. I'm not even investing. I'm just donating. Plain and simple, because it's got to be done. Because I understand we have to start somewhere. If I wait for somebody to start it and somebody else wait for somebody to start it, then who's going to start it? Are you getting my point? That's where we are. But for somebody to even ask such a dumb question, if I put in $10, would there be accountability? What do you think? What kind of organization do you think I'm putting in place? Are you getting my point?
Yeah. Somebody's just put on the screen, people have given donations to churches every week. And what has it done for us? What accountability has it
Again, when you give to church, you're giving to your God. I can't speak to what other people have done. This is an institute which is a registered 501c that is going to have accountability. When you guys start donating and there's money and there are things that need to be done, there will be reports. But as long as I'm hiring the people who are helping me, who do I give accountable to? Who am I'm accountable to you for the money that I'm donating? We're not there yet. When the diaspora start donating in a significant way, then there will be reports. But right now, the donation is coming from me. I'm donating to ADDI. And that's a fact.
Okay. So,
but we do have
that is a fact.
Financial officer. We have a treasurer who is going to be monitoring our books. But right now, there is hardly any books. The money is sitting there. The money that has been donated, which is not much, is all sitting there. The finance officer.
Thank you so much. And one of the other questions that I do want to ask you is that, you know, our hope is that you'll become the AU chairman. And when you do, what happens to ADDI?
Well, again, that's part of the structure that you're going to be seeing on the website. I intentionally was wanting to find the right people before I start putting out on the people out on the website. I want to make sure that I have put together a team of people who are ready to work. I have dealt with quite a few people along the way, but some were not quite ready. They come in for 1 month, for 2 months, before you know it, they're ready to get paid. Well, with what money? Are you getting my point? I still have to deal with that, the selfish people who just, you know, it's like, what's in it for me? That's it's a strong problem. It's a serious problem among us. What's in it for me? Why don't you do something for a change for your children, your grandchildren, and generations to come? Do something that is not about you. That's what ADDI is about. It's not about you. It's about generations to come. It's about turning the corner and saying, united as a race, we will do better, just like others have done. That's what ADDI is about. It's not about these big little things. And we get stuck into those little things, and they keep us from looking at the bigger picture and what really matters in the end. I'm about the bigger picture. I'm about moving us. It's a big overhaul, and not about pettiness. Not about pettiness. So it's that kind of thinking that I'm hoping that as we continue to dialogue, people understand that what we are doing is not about me and you. Yes, maybe for you young people, we are doing it for you. But definitely my generation, we are doing it not for us. Again, I go back to myself.
Okay.
I'm a medical doctor. I don't need to work. I'm a medical doctor. I have worked, and my kids are grown. And now it's time for me to give. My daughter, you're making me talk too much. Let me drink some water here.
I'm sorry, Mommy. But, you know, I mean, you know, I think with us, you know, someone's put a question that says, you know, professional people cannot dedicate that amount of time consistently without getting paid. And that is the truth. They're thinking that, you know, they've got full-time job. Mm-hmm.
No, we understand that. That's why I remember when my mother was sick, I was not at home, and my siblings would rotate my mother for a month or two at a time. Because I could not be there, my contributions were financial. And when I could, I went home. So whatever it is that you can do, it doesn't have to be financial. You could also make phone calls. You got lots of friends. You got people in your phone right there. Make sure everybody in your database has signed up with ADDI. That's huge. It doesn't have to be time. It doesn't have, physically. It doesn't have to be monetary. There's so many ways to give. Just go on, say, every weekend, I'm going to call 5 friends and encourage them to go to addi.org. That's huge. Can you not do that? Yes, you can. Nothing is stopping you. Learn about ADDI. Are you getting my point?
I do indeed.
There's so much we all can do.
I think
it's not about money.
There's a lot of work to be done.
There's a lot of looking at things differently. Looking at things differently. It's about what can I do? What can I help with? No, everything doesn't amount just money. We can't just, everything is about money, being paid for something. No, we must have developed that spirit of giving. It's about giving. That's something we struggle with as Black people. We must give because it is the right thing to do. And never think about when I give, what do I get back? It's about our race. It's about generations to come. And that's what we need to keep our eye on the ball. Ultimately, what are we trying to do? It's not about tomorrow's meal. No, it's about what is your 3rd, 4th generation down going to eat 200 years from now. That's what we're talking about. But we are not trained to think like that. We're trained, programmed to think about tomorrow and today, and that's it. That's got to change.
That has got to change. Thank you so much, Ambassador. Again, as always, there's thousands of questions for you, but you've been speaking for a very long time. I think that you've answered most of them. You said quite a lot of things, and you know, we appreciate you. We support your vision. I'm hoping that everybody will go online. People are saying that there needs to be a stronger marketing plan and PR plan for ADDI. They feel like, you know, It needs to be stronger, but I guess we are all working behind the scenes to make sure that ADDI comes out right. There's still it's still work in progress. People are working tirelessly behind the scenes that, you know, some of you may not know about. And so, you know, things are happening. But if you do want to register, as Ambassador has said, just go on the website, RADDI /join today, join now. You will get feedback. They are still building the website and all of the things, all of the information that she has said will be coming on. There will be a proper launch of ADDI as well, where the marketing strategy, you will see it. All the social media handles are being done. Even Ambassador herself will have, you know, her own social media coming up. There's lots of things being done right now for ADDI. So please go online and register. If you do want to volunteer, again, all the details are on the website. I see a lot of you are saying, you know, I've got time, I can do marketing and PR. Please go online and make sure that you register today. The information will eventually be sent to you. As she said, you know, bringing the diaspora together, bringing us Black people together is no joke at all. You know, and so let's be patient. And wait a little while. This only started in November last year, and there's a lot of work to be done. So more patience as we work towards the ADDI that we all want to see. And for those of you that are watching, again, there will be transparency. There's no way there wouldn't be transparency. There's, you know, there's a chief financial officer. There's people who have been put in place to make sure that anything that you donate will be online. I mean, they're going to have to be accountable anyway. So it will be all there for you to see. I'm so grateful for your time, Ambassador. I don't know if you have your last words. I'm not going to go through the questions, I'm afraid, guys, because we've been online for 2 hours now, and Ambassador has another meeting. So, Ambassador, what are your last words before we go?
My last words to you, my children, and I want you all to know, and I say children because most of you are old enough to be my children, and some of you even my grandchildren. I want you to know that we do what we're doing. I certainly know on my part, I do what I do because of you. I know how hard you guys work. You work, some of you, 2-3 jobs a day. It shouldn't be that way. The other kids don't work as hard as you do. You work as hard as you do because your elders, we didn't fight your battle for you. So you don't have to be, or you don't have to live the life that we lived. I work 2-3 jobs. You should not have to work 2-3 jobs. Your life should be better. And I need to make it better for you. So I want you to know, my conscience is very clear when it comes to that your life must be better. Certainly your children's lives must be better. And we need to work towards that. And that as a race, we deserve better. And the only way to demand our respect is when we start by respecting ourselves first and foremost. And it starts with unity and understanding who we are, understanding the journey that we have been. Let's get rid of the selfishness that keeps us from moving forward. Let's get rid of the self-hate and mistrust of each other. For a change, let's say, you know what? It's $10. What do I have to lose? If you believe in the vision, if you believe in the mission, you must give. If you don't believe in the vision and you don't believe in the mission, do not give. Don't get on this train, because we don't wish for you to be a spoiler. I do know, they often say, if you want to destroy a Black man, use another Black man. There will be some of us who are going to be used as instruments of our own self-destruction. We know that. It would be foolish of us to think that we're all going to just be perfect, that we're all going to believe in this vision, that we're all going to believe in us coming together. Far from it. There will be some elements within us who are going to be used to take us down. We hope that if you are of that spirit, if you're not of the spirit that believes in what needs to be done for us as a race, ultimately, get off this train. This train is not for you. That's not to say at a later date, you won't be ready for this train. We are simply saying, if you care about your grandchildren, if you care about your children and generations to come, step aside. Let those who are ready drive this train drive this agenda. When you are ready, you can always join. So I say to all of you, we love you as our children. We love you as our grandkids. You have my commitment that I will work tirelessly as long as I have breath in my lungs to fight for your future and the future of your children and your grandchildren and generations to come. So I ask all of you to go to our ADDI. If we can have a copy of that book per family, let everybody read it. Let everybody understand it. Let's begin to unshackle the shackles of our minds, the shackles that are keeping us from doing what others do so easily. The onus is on us, and it starts with us understanding who we are. Join ADDI, and after you've done that, call a few friends, get in the habit of going through your phone every weekend. When you have a free time, call 3, 4, 5 friends and encourage them to go to ADDI. It's free. But we just got to have that database, that directory of us, so we can communicate. Other races have those directories. They communicate with each other. They share information. We need to do the same thing. I just want to be able to tell you what's going on. We're getting ready to launch out this East-West corridor. It's going to be so exciting. We don't want to miss you out. We just want you to be in the know. It's not costing you anything. And like I said, while you're on the website, if you want to give, that's wonderful. But if you cannot give, that's okay too. We just need you to sign up so we know where you are. Stay focused, stay united, work towards unshackling our minds. I know many of us, we don't even realize that we're suffering from the shackles of the mind. But start asking yourself some of the dumb things we do as Black people. Just downright dumb.
Absolutely.
Why do you do those dumb things?
Thank you so much. And your voice has been powerful, because look what's happened with France. You know, you championed about, you know, how our money, African money, was going back to France, and you know, things have changed now, you know, because of your voice.
We have to keep talking. We have to keep talking. And there's so many other issues we have to go after. So we must be fearless. We must be fearless to defend our race. We must be fearless to defend our continent. We must be fearless to defend our children, our grandchildren, and generations to come. I will repeatedly speak to that. If we are not fearless, they will continue to abuse us. They will continue to exploit us. That time is over. This is time for us Black people to stand our ground and defend our turf. I thank you all for being who you are. Keep up the good work, and let's continue to encourage unity among us.
Thank you so much, Mama Africa. We appreciate you so much, Mama. And I'm sure we'll definitely come back again soon to talk about the next, you know, progress of ADDI. Thank you so much for joining me on tonight's show.
Thank you so much. Keep up the good work, my dear daughter. I love you all.
I love you too, Mommy. Bye-bye. Guys, I hope that you have enjoyed tonight's show. So many of you have put in questions. I'm so sorry that we couldn't go and answer all of them, but I'm sure Ambassador will watch this back. I can't say much. All she kept on saying for me was for us to unify, for us to be united, for us to come together. And for all the concerns that we do have, they will be resolved. ADDI is still young, it's still a baby. You know, Ambassador has a big vision. And so, you know, when big visions are like that, we must make sure that the proper measures are taken, the baby steps are taken to make sure that we put things in place. Because if things are not put in place, we are the same people that are going to complain and say, we don't want to be part of this. So let's give her some time. Remember, ADDI hasn't been officially launched yet. Okay, let's give her time. Let's put all the strategies together, and then we will make sure that ADDI stands firm. As you've heard, she wants to go for the AU chairmanship. You know, she's still seeing, but it's something that she does want to do, and she's putting things in place so that we, the community, can, you know, progress while she cannot, you know, do ADDI. She's putting the structures in place to make sure this happens. So again, to all my viewers, to everybody that has watched today, I hope that you've enjoyed the show. On Sunday, do not miss out. We will be talking about prostate cancer. a conversation that we'll be having with, somebody that's had it before, our dads. It's hard to get the men to talk about it, but I found somebody that is going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the prevention, what you can do. A lot of our African men are getting it, and what can we do to support them? How can it be avoided? And what are the causes? We'll be discussing this on Social Sundays. So make sure that you are with me this Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Ghana time, 2:30 p.m. EST, and join me to have a conversation. It's really, really important that we keep talking, we educate ourselves as a community and get things right. If you have enjoyed the show tonight, give me a high five, And also, as you also join ADDI, make sure that you join Ordana Connect with us. What this platform is for is that if you are looking for investment opportunities in Ghana, if you're looking for partnerships, if you are looking for real estate to invest in, if you're looking for land to buy, register at Ordana Connect. Again, I want to say a big thank you to Cassie's Classics for giving me this amazing all-purpose seasoning. Go on her website and purchase one. It is incredible. You will definitely be thanking me later. She does shito. She does jollof seasoning, which I keep going on and on and on about. It's because it is amazing. That's why I keep going on about it. Again, if you're looking for lovely lips, if you're looking for a nice lip glaze, go to Vesta London Beauty for your wonderful lip glaze. And again, don't forget to purchase this perfume. Go online and support the cause, guys. It smells absolutely amazing. Buy it for a loved one, for a birthday present, a christening, whatever. It's really important that we support our own. So go online and do that. Lastly, go on the addi.org/join and join today. There will be information that will be provided. I thank you all for joining me on the show. Please keep sharing the show. Please keep liking and subscribing. It's really important. Thank you for sharing the information. I really appreciate you all. Thank you for, each and every time coming online and supporting the cause. Again, make sure that you use World Remit to send all your money transfers to Ghana and Africa as well. They are everywhere. Just go online, www.worldremit.com, subscribe, and, send your money to a loved one. Thank you all so much for joining me on the Denta Show. Let's keep on Africa rising. Yes, I love that. Africa rising, Africa connecting, Africa doing it. This is our time. The time is now. I keep saying this. The time is now. If you haven't bought Ambassador's book, somebody's asking me for the link again. Let me just put it on before I go. Let me do that now. Okay, right. I'm sending it now. Please go online and get her book as well and support the cause. Thank you so much, guys. I will see you on Sunday at 6:30. If you know anybody that has suffered from prostate cancer, that is going through the process, please make sure that on Sunday you encourage them to watch the show. I want us to really talk about topics that we don't like to talk about, that we, hide behind the doors, we hide it under the carpet, but we really need to talk about this because a lot of people are going through this. So make sure that you stay connected. Thank you all so much. God bless you all. Take care. Bye-bye.